Hello everyone, welcome to Bruno's MMA show. As you can see, we continue to have the best production values in the biz. And yes, for those wondering, that's still the same sheet of paper from episode 1. I'm not getting rid of it. I might even frame it. So anyway, UFC 256. That was a lot to digest. And there's a lot of memes going around. And it's rough. It's been a rough one. We've seen a lot of old favorites go down hard, replaced by younger blood, and who I'm sure will in time become new favorites. But that was rough. That was rough to watch, I guess. Amazing fights, amazing performances by all the fighters, of course. But when you see like Dos Santos go down like that, and which, by the way, I thought that elbow, I don't know why I thought it might have been illegal because it hit the back of the head. And full disclosure, I was actually watching the fights without sound. So long story, but whatever. So I don't know if the commentators actually mentioned it. I just saw the elbow hit the back of the head of Santos, and I was like, is that legal? Or is it a thing where they take a point away but the guy wins anyway? So I don't know, because it was a TKO. Yeah, so but none hit as hard, I guess, as Tony Ferguson's second loss in a row. And a lot is being made of maybe Ferguson is no longer in his prime. It's kind of what's being made of it. First of all, I think, we don't know that. We don't know if is Ferguson not in his prime anymore, or is it just that Gaethje and Oliveira had their number, so to speak? We don't know. If it's the latter, as hard as it was to watch Tony Ferguson lose again, as a big fan of the guy that I am, in a weird way, it gives me closure regarding Ferguson versus Khabib. And when I talk about fighters, I'm doing an MMA show, so I have to give my opinion, right? And I never want to be disrespectful, which I feel like it's kind of funny. Like, as soon as you're saying, oh, I think this guy would win, to me, it almost feels like you're criticizing in a way. Like, oh, I think, but it's not really that, but it feels that way. So I don't mean this with any disrespect, but my opinion is that if Oliveira was able to do what he did to Ferguson on the ground, then I don't think Ferguson would have fared better against Khabib. Which is my opinion. I could be completely wrong. So it does put me at, like, I find peace in that in a weird way, where I think, okay, so I don't have to lament what could have been. Because a lot of people were kind of like in the camp that, oh, since Gaethje beat Ferguson, and then Khabib beat Gaethje so easily, there wasn't a point to Ferguson versus Khabib anymore, which I disagreed, because to me, Ferguson had lost against Gaethje in a kickboxing fight, and against Khabib it would have been a grappling fight. And that is something that I thought Gaethje didn't bring that grappling challenge to Khabib, really. I mean, you could argue about the wrestling and such, but once it goes to the ground, the ground fighting, I don't think Gaethje had anything to bring against Khabib, which Gaethje himself admitted before the fight. So I don't think I'm saying anything he would disagree with, or that the results, didn't end up showing. So that was what I lamented, because MMA math doesn't work. It's not because this guy beat this guy that the same one would beat the other one. Sometimes, like, styles make fights, and you cannot have this situation where one guy could beat this one but couldn't beat the other, but the other guy who lost could beat the last one. So it happens. Like, anyone who trains a martial arts gym, yeah, sometimes there's that guy who's just better than everyone else and is beating everyone. But other times it's kind of interesting, where you have like guys who mutually defeat each other, but it becomes jumbled, So that's kind of how I saw it. That Ferguson's loss to Gaethje didn't tell us if he would have lost against Khabib. That was my way of seeing it. But now that we saw what happened with Oliveira, well, I don't think Ferguson would have done anything from the back that would have stopped Khabib. Now, I do want to mention, I have observed a change in Ferguson, and I don't think it's a physical change. I think it's more of a mental change. My theory is that Ferguson showed up at the gate to the Gaethje fight tired, having gone through many weight cuts, like weights, not knowing what was going to happen. Was he going to fight Khabib or not? Having prepared for grappler for the longest time, and ended up facing Gaethje, and then just wasn't prepared for what Gaethje had to bring. And Gaethje won fair and square, super impressive victory. But I think that the Ferguson we saw against Oliveira was not prime Ferguson, but I don't think it's a physical thing. I think it's a mental thing. Ferguson just seemed different. He seemed different. He wasn't dancing when he walked towards the cage, all of that stuff, And I don't know what that means going forward. I would suspect that maybe the next opponent that Ferguson faces won't be ranked as high, and maybe like then he gets a win and that gives him back his motivation, and then maybe we start seeing the Ferguson of old. If, however, I'm wrong, if it is physical, be it just through overtime or after the war with Gaethje, or at least the damage he got against Gaethje, then if he has that third loss, like I think we'll have a clear picture. I think next fight that Ferguson has will give us a good idea of where he's at. Was it just mental, or is this just like, are we never again going to see a Ferguson win streak? Now that said, I have to say, I think Oliveira, as it stands, is the guy who's going to get the belt next. If Khabib stays retired, Oliveira is our next champion at 155. That is my opinion. That's how I'm calling it right now. When you look at what Oliveira has done to Kevin Lee and Tony Ferguson, who, by the way, both of these guys fought for the interim belt in the past. When you see what he's done to them, I think Oliveira is the guy. And we'll see, we'll see what happens. But I really think that's the guy who's going to get the belt. Let's wait and see. It was just hard to watch, I guess, when just the run that El Cucuy was on, 12-win fight streak and all that. So, but props to Oliveira. Oliveira is an amazing contender. Like, I think he's getting the belt next. That's what I saw. I saw a champion. If Khabib stays, now that's interesting. That becomes really interesting. But in my opinion, if Khabib does the 30th fight, I think it's against GSP, Georges St-Pierre. But I don't know. It's kind of difficult to tell because Khabib is a man of his word. So normally when he says he's retiring, that he's doing it for his mom, I would have just believed it, and that's it. Like, that's where the story ends. But his father wanted him to get to 30 victories, 30-0. So that's where you get a 50-50 thing where, well, he made a promise to, or at least he had an understanding with his dad, and then he made a promise to his mom. So which one? And I think Dana White is going to pull the GSP card. I think that's how he gets Khabib back. And after that, the belt goes up for grabs. If that's the case, I think an interim belt is, again, a good way to just give something to the guys who are waiting for all of that. If Khabib is to fight GSP, then either it should be a catch weight, or really they should put an interim belt out there. I am not against interim belts at all. I think when there's circumstances that justify them, like, you know, in fact, I think there should have been an interim belt for Ngannou at the heavyweight division. Now that we're talking about that, interim belts, but nevertheless, no. Figueiredo and Moreno. You know, that was an amazing fight. I'm convinced we're gonna see a rematch. I don't think the rematch will be as even. I don't know why. I have a gut feeling that for the next fight, one of the two will have figured the other out. And I think next time Figueiredo is gonna win by finish, just because he's bigger, hits harder, and by then, like, they'll each have figured each other out. But if I look at that fifth round, what was going on in the fifth round, I don't know. I've got this feeling that in a rematch, it's not going to be the same thing again. Like, they're going to announce the rematch for sure because it's been a draw, and people are going to get excited about the same kind of war. But I think Figueiredo is just going to finish Moreno on the next one. Again, could be wrong, but it's just looking at that fifth round, basically, what we were seeing. But of course, you know, Moreno could come with this amazing game plan and prove me wrong. Or maybe we get exactly the same thing again. You know, just goes the distance. But I mean, Figueiredo kind of won that fight. It's just because of the, you know, the point loss to the eye, you know. And I think we need more draws in MMA. Maybe an unpopular opinion, but the thing is that with the reality is that judges in MMA are not good at all. And this is an instance where I'm always like, I don't want to criticize too hard or offend people. And you know, when you talk about fighters, I kind of hate that aspect of having to sort of criticize fighters in a way when you say they would lose against this other one. But when it comes to MMA judging, I mean, at this point, like, sometimes you something is so blatant that you can't be, you know, you have to be direct about it. So MMA judging is so bad. They get it wrong so often, especially when it's a fight that was back and forth, and sometimes fans see a clear winner anyway, but the judges just get it wrong. And so, you know what? I prefer when, because they don't know what they're doing very often, I'd rather they give draws. If they're not sure, they don't have to find a winner. You know, like, it's better to have a draw where it was supposed to be a clear winner than to have the wrong person lose. So that's how I see it. Because of the reality of MMA judging, I wish there were more draws. When judges don't know, and they don't like, in the Gaethje versus Khabib fight, they gave, I think, the first round. One of the judges, at least, gave the first round to Gaethje, which is insane. But I guess that judge was looking. I don't know. Maybe that judge just didn't know what grappling was. You know, didn't know what to make of it. So that draw that happened, I think, is a good sign. First of all, it's cool. It leaves the door open for that rematch. And often because judges do just make too many mistakes in MMA, so I'd rather they make draws. I really prefer that, really. And you know, I wonder if MMA judges really score it, or if they just go like, kind of like, oh, I think that guy won, and then they kind of like put the points to make it work with that opinion. So that's something I wonder too, to be honest. I don't even know fully the scoring system. Which I know I have an MMA show and I don't know the MMA scoring system, but you know what? It's gonna, like, what I know of it is so bad for MMA. It's so, like, it's a boxing system, and it makes a little sense that my reaction to this to kind of like not even acknowledge it. So I guess I'll have to learn it someday. You know, when people are like, "Oh, I scored a fight this and this," I'm like, I didn't score it. I just went with the eye test, who I think won. But because of that, I don't even know how that works. That 10-point system, whatever. Like, anytime I start looking at it, it's so inappropriate for MMA that cannot just like dismiss it. It's so bad I don't even want to think about it or acknowledge it or think of MMA in those terms because it's completely inappropriate for MMA. That's a boxing system. That system poorly acknowledges when a fighter is about to finish the other one and stuff like that. Poorly acknowledges it. Anyway, I'll have to say that I'm really. I think the draw is perfect. I think it brings us that fight again in a cool way. I think it's better than stuff like what happened with Max Holloway and in Volkanovski, where that could have that should have been a draw. I think, for example, I personally thought in a moment that Holloway won, but looking back, it was close. Okay, I think they should have just made a draw. Like, I think judges just make it up on the spot. I think they just go with the eye test and then they kind of come up with the numbers to fit the narrative they want to put. That's my theory. But because I don't know that system that well, I might be wrong. But yeah, that would make actually judges start doing more draws. If you don't know what the F you're doing, just make more draws. It's fun. We get rematches for fights that were close. That's not a bad thing per se. And it kind of, that stupid saying like, don't leave it to the judges. Like, yeah, well, that's true. Don't leave it to the judges because the judges make so many mistakes. But at the same time, like, sometimes you can't avoid it. Like when two amazing fighters are facing each other and they're both good at defending themselves and posing threats to the other, like they can't always get the finish. And because of that, I think judges on their part, maybe if they start recognizing that they don't know what they're doing when they choose a winner or a loser when it's close, or even when it's obvious that. Anyway, I'll have to say I like draws because of the current context of MMA judging. And then if judges were competent, then draws would happen when they legit happen. But in this case, because they're not, I think people would be a lot less mad at judges if there were maybe sometimes draws too many draws rather than too many wrong decisions. And by wrong decisions, I mean like the wrong person loses and the wrong person wins. That is more unforgivable, I think. Yeah. Anyway, it's been an interesting end of the year, and it's been a crazy year for MMA, really. And then recently Dana White said that they made a lot of money this year. Of course, they were like the only sport around for a while. And that pissed me off. Because a while back he was saying crap like, oh, well, this year's the wrong year to ask for a raise in pay. That's what he was saying. But so it was the wrong year because there's no gate, and I saw people like comment online, like they're parroting what Dana White says. They're like, well, there's no gate, they can't pay the guys. Like, come on, are you kidding me? And now Dana White confirms they made a shit ton of money. So what? Like he can't even lie with a contradicting himself. And so they made lots of money, but earlier was the wrong time to ask for more pay. Yeah. And now they made a lot of money, but they're going to cut 60 people from their roster. And they were like, oh, we're not going to fire anyone. I guess they meant, like employees and administration and all that. But, fighters are independent contractors. They're not employees of the UFC. So I guess they get fired. So 60 people. They already cut Romero. And they cut, a few. But Romero was the really confusing one. Anyway, so we cap. Yeah, it's an interesting end to the year 2020 for MMA because, it's a year where MMA became more mainstream. More people started looking at it. But it's also a year where just ugly stuff is happening. Like, every year it happens, but it's just with the whole ESPN deal that they don't even need to worry about pay-per-views anymore unless it's someone like Conor McGregor who's going to sell a ton of pay-per-views. They just need to put up fights so they can just they'll bring young blood and people they can put in long contracts that they cannot get out of for peanuts. They're going to pay them. The young fighters who are excited to be in the UFC, they're not going to get paid anything, and they're going to have contracts where they can never get out of it. And that's why I'm happy that the class action lawsuit is going well for the mixed martial arts artists association, the MMAFA. I'm drawing a blank on, wait, MMAFA, yeah, Mixed Martial Artists, Mixed Martial Arts Fighters Association, MMAFA. So I'm happy that they won the, well, I mean, I'm happy they went forward the class action lawsuit that a judge determined they could do that, and that's exciting. I'm just, now that MMA is becoming more mainstream, I just want to see the sport become, if it's going to be mainstream, I want to see the fighters who do it get paid like other athletes in other sports. So that's pretty much it. It's been a crazy year, and we're seeing all legends fall. Who knows if they'll rise again in 2021 or not? Who knows if the UFC is going to keep them? Up to chew on. But I'm very excited. I think we're going to be making a change for the better. I think these lawsuits, because, you know, like now that Trump is going to leave office, and Trump is friends with Dana White, and Trump actually shut down a lot of progress for changes in laws regarding MMA fighters and their ability to be free agents, to test free agency. So now that Trump is going out of office, fighters might have a chance again. Which again baffles me that so many fighters are pro-Trump, but whatever. Really baffled. I don't get that one. I really don't get it, but I guess that's a story for another day. Okay, everyone. Thanks for watching. See you next time.